Well, g'day everyone. It's the Two Ordinary Cops, and we are back. And Damo, mate, I believe you're in Indooroopilly.
I'm in Indooroopilly, Shilty. A few technical dramas with the live recording, so I'm upstairs, you're downstairs. It's kind of weird, but that's all right. Yeah,
I suppose the joy of actually doing it inside, though, we don't have the problem with the birds. So, yeah, it makes it a bit less editing when I try and get rid of the background noise. So,
yeah. Well, we
uh,
do like the birds. We just don't like them on the podcast. That's all.
that's right. Exactly. Yeah, mate. I'll start off with a couple of shout outs. So yeah, Mark from VicPol. Yeah, big shout out to him. He's been in contact with us, and if anybody out there has any questions for VicPol, send them through to us, and we'll pass them down because every jurisdiction is slightly different on how they handle things.
Yeah.
It could be anything with to do with pursuit policy because each area seems to have a different pursuit policy, and or youth crime and all that sort of thing. So if you do have any questions for VicPol, send them through to us, and we'll pass them down and see what information we can get for you. Because
Yeah.
neither of us really spent much time down there, Damo.
No, and that's a good point. Like, policing is policing to a point, but every jurisdiction has their own SOPs, has their own arrest to brief process, their own judiciary processes, their own reporting computer systems. They're all different. So, when police move from one jurisdiction to another, they go through training, not necessarily how to be a policeman, but how to how that jurisdiction works. So, yeah, it's definitely they're all slightly different. So,
Yeah,
we're certainly not experts on everywhere
yeah. So
or
and
anywhere for that matter.
that's right. And also like we got another contact. So shout out to them. I don't actually know what their name is because it comes up as something on YouTube, but a comment from there, and they actually asked if we can talk about at some stage. If you work with, well, they said bad cops, but it's more like people that probably weren't suited to the job, and
Mm.
probably a few people might be able to relate to that. But we won't talk about that today, mate. Today we have something else, and Damo, I think you best introduce this, mate.
Yeah, so my brother actually brought it up yesterday. So I've come up here for a few things, and yeah, we got a phone call from my brother yesterday, and he was involved in a bit of a bingle in Toowoomba. So we didn't have a hell of a lot on. So Shilty and I went for a drive up the hill, and one of the things he said to me was, everyone reacted like there was a lot of emotion and all the rest of it. And he said, "Yeah, okay, a person was hurt, but not terribly. They had, a bit of an injury, but nothing too bad." That it's all dealt with, and insurance companies will do their thing. But he just sort of thought he's a bit of a fan of the podcast, I think. So shout
Yeah,
out to BJ in Toowoomba.
definitely.
He just said, why don't you talk about how people react in situations like that, and how some people, they go straight to emotion immediately instead of being objective and just fixing the problem.
Yeah,
And I think the next part of that was we were sort of having a bit of a chat about it. And he was talking about how witness accounts can be completely rubbish. And we obviously have experienced that plenty of times where, someone in the emotion of what's just occurred may have thought they saw something where actually that wasn't what actually occurred. So um, I think we can kick it off with the first part of that, which is talking about the emotional response that people get when they're involved in, I wouldn't even say a critical incident, but it might be critical to them. Like it's something completely out of the ordinary. We always hear about little car crashes and little bingles all the time. They happen constantly.
yeah,
But when you're actually involved in it, um, there's a bit of adrenaline. There's a bit of a holy bloody hell, I've just been in a crash, and you're stuck in traffic, and there's vehicles trying to get around you, and it is a bit full on, and it can be quite stressful. But I think what we're talking about now is where people respond really emotionally, and they immediately start blaming and pointing because to them it's a situation that's beyond their control, and there seems to be this need for them to immediately blame everybody. And I've seen it plenty of times in car crashes where everyone will be emotional and start yelling and screaming. It's like, well, hang on, just stop, calm down. You go over there, breathe, have a drink. You're alive. Everyone's fine. It's just a car. It doesn't matter. I know it's going to be a pain in the butt, but it's not. You've
it's
got to
not
be
the end of the
rational.
world.
I think what he was saying was there's a lot of people who reacted very irrationally. One of the blokes who was a bit hurt in the crash was sort of yelling and screaming and very irrational. But I mean, you sort of got to give him a little bit. He'd just been hurt in a car or hit by a car, basically. So, but even after that, there was no right. I just calm down, woosah, bring it back. Okay, this has happened. No one meant for this to happen. It's a situation that we now need to fix, and we need to start looking at our objective priorities. Number one, protect life. Well, let's make sure that rubberneckers don't run over someone else. So to me, it's just first aid 101. It's the danger. What other danger still exists here?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, there's no danger. We've eliminated that problem. We've identified that risk and the hazard, and we've brought in a control to fix it, which for those work health safety types is just work health safety 101. And then it's the whole, righto, so you're injured. We need an ambulance for you. You need to go to hospital. We've got the cars off the road. Traffic's flowing again. So it's a matter of working through that emotion. And I'm not really speaking from a police point of view. I'm sort of talking more if you're just a citizen and you're involved in a crash. And I think some people are very good at this. There's a lot of people who are very good at just being rational and going, righto, calm down. Let's fix the problems. But a lot of people do just fly off the rail and panic and act very irrationally. And you would have seen that, going to little car crashes. We just went to thousands of them, little bingles. Yeah. You just turn up and basically check everyone's licenses are okay, make sure the drivers and make sure the people involved have exchanged information, breathalyze the drivers, and basically make sure the road's clear and move on.
Yeah.
So it's not really a big deal to emergency services, but yeah, the people involved, it can get quite stressful. But yeah, what are your thoughts, mate? You got any experiences with that?
Well, mate, I was just going to one of the things is because they're talking about different accounts and all that sort of thing, and I'll go back. I've mentioned this once before, and look, some people may disagree with the way I put this, but whenever I was training even the young officers, I always said question the victim more than you do the offender, or alleged victim, because how many times have you actually taken a statement from someone and found out they're the offender? So you've always got to. You always never fully trust somebody that's telling you a story, because they will manipulate it. Not everybody, but some people will manipulate it so it suits their circumstances. So, that's probably one of the things. But in different witness accounts, everybody sees things differently. And sometimes you'll get some witness accounts and look and sometimes they actually they don't do it intentionally, but they actually give you the wrong information. And some people see it as a blue shirt, or and it's a red shirt or something like that, and it's not till your CCTV is very good for clearing a lot of those discrepancies up. And you can also some of the witnesses you speak to as well, some of them downright lie to you. And some of them just don't. You have some people that can give an excellent report back on exactly what happened, right down to their toenails, just about. And then you get some people that couldn't even give you the hair color.
No.
So everybody's different.
Yeah, and it is just different personality types, I think. And I think a lot of that has to do with an emotional response. Like if people aren't having a mad adrenaline dump, like if I was to watch something like a crash or something occur on the road, I don't think, well, you and I don't think we'd have a mad adrenaline dump. I think we'd just go, right, what's the biggest problem here? And it's like, well, I think the first thing I'd look at is what other traffic's barreling along the road? Like what else is going to crash into this thing?
Yeah.
And sort of realise, but that comes with the experience of knowing that the most dangerous thing is the other traffic on the road in that situation. But I think more the witness accounts is part of what we're talking about, but it's also just that trying to keep people rational at a scene. So there's sort of two parts to what we're talking about. And I think what BJ was saying was at the very beginning, there was quite a lot of irrational yelling and stuff like that, even from other witnesses. I think someone yelled at him that you needed to slow down. He said, my car went from moving to stopped in 1 meter. It wasn't that I was going too fast. I wasn't. I just didn't see the guy, and that was that. So, someone's reacted and just gone, oh, crash, you were going too fast. And they haven't thought. They've just fired from the hip. But he did say that particular woman was then later on was sort of giving him a hug and all the rest of it. So everyone calmed down eventually. But it's important to move like that initial response, just to take a breath. Just calm down, right? What do we need to do to fix this problem? Think objectively and just remove the emotion and just go, right, this has occurred. We can't change that. How do we fix it? And then with the witness account side of things, often when you get an adrenaline dump, your focus will go straight to something that your brain has identified as the most important part of that particular incident. And it may be that that particular thing that you noticed is amplified beyond reality in your own brain. So, people can say, "Oh yeah, this guy, he cut that car off, and then as a result, this crash happened." And then sometimes you'll often get dash cam footage back that might be completely different from that. So it's important to just step back and work through what you actually saw, and don't embellish. You only ever tell exactly what you saw, and "I don't know" is a perfectly legitimate answer, or "I'm not quite sure about that. I think I saw this happen. I remember seeing this." So it's just, and this is to just people at a crash site or at anything where you're giving a statement or giving your version of events. "I don't know" is a very good answer, because we now know that you're not embellishing or trying to fix gaps. We
Yeah.
don't fill gaps. If you don't try and make something up because you think that might have occurred. You go, "No, I don't know exactly. I saw this, I saw that, I saw that, and I don't know what happened there, and I don't know what happened there."
Yeah. Yeah, mate. I'll just something you reminded me there, and I know we got trained in it probably a bit later on, when you go more into the investigative learning side of things, and that is the fact is people's emotions can also cloud, sorry, their recollection. So if
Oh
you get
yeah,
a really emotional person, a lot of the time, I know a lot of the good police officers will actually spend a bit of time calming that person down before you get them to actually go through the story, because if you've been to a traumatic incident, and I'll mention rapes here, they're actually, everything's been destroyed in their whole being to a point,
mm,
and you've got to settle them, and sometimes they sit there and go, sometimes you're actually better off taking a statement either hours or a day later, and let
yeah,
them kind of basically get control of their situation again. And you've got to handle those things very delicately, but everybody handles things completely different, and emotion can cloud. And like you said, sometimes they'll want to actually fill in gaps that they don't know.
yeah,
Whereas we just prefer to sit there and go, if you don't know, say you don't know. There's nothing wrong
yeah.
with that. And if we then,
No, it actually makes you a very credible witness if you go, "I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what
yep,
happened here,"
and that's something
because it
we get
shows that
trained
you're not.
when we're police
Yeah,
officers
that's
as
right.
well, like giving evidence in court. If you can't recall, you can't recall.
No,
That's it.
no, and yeah, a lot of people don't understand that we're not just talking to you. We're going to talk to everybody, and from all of those versions of events, we'll piece together the best, basically line that we can. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, little bingles to police are a very small job and very common, but I think it was for the average person who will go through their day and nothing major is going to occur, and that might be the case for 15 years. um, to suddenly be involved in something like that is traumatic. I mean, we've got to sort of we've spoken a lot about trauma at the high end, dealing with dead kids and all sorts of horrible things like that. But trauma can be quite low end, like what happened there was a collision with a bicycle is what the problem was, and yeah, the fellow was injured, but he's not terribly badly injured. Um, but yeah, still it's a big thing. It's like you've got your adrenaline will dump and you'll feel the weight of the world on your shoulders for a while, and you just need to recover from, as the driver, that is. And yeah, it's important for everyone to sort of help out and understand that it's extremely rare for a traffic crash to take place. And yeah, there may have been little glimpses of very minor negligence that's not really culpability. But anyone, it's possible for this to happen to anybody, and you just need to understand if something does happen, you just need to fix the problem. Is the big thing.
Yep.
We don't need emotion doesn't really need to come into it, but a little bit further on from that as well is that you'll do that roller coaster. So we've spoken about police dealing with a critical incident and how you then need to sort of go back and hang out with the sergeant and in the group sort of normalize what you've been through and all the rest of it, and just talk it out and have a beer, and that normalizes the behavior and just levels you out a bit. Well, that's high end policing at maybe a fatal crash or something like that. But at the low end stuff, as a just average Joe in the street involved in something like this, which is out of the ordinary, the exact same coping mechanisms apply. It's go and stop, like take the day off work, go and have a beer, just chill out. If your
Yep.
beer's not your thing, but we say beer all the time because that's what we do. But I mean, you just do something that relaxes you. Go and especially be with other people. And if you feel like talking about it, talk about it. If you don't, that's fine. all responses are normal. But I think what we need to say is that even at that lower end, what might be considered low for us can still be a bit of a little bit of critical incident stress can still come into that for people involved in it. So,
Yeah.
and don't downplay your emotions. If you've been involved in a bingle and you're all shaky and you're feeling a bit down or all the rest of it, or you're just still a bit hyped up, that's perfectly normal. So just work through that, and
Yeah, exactly. I think like you just touched on a good point there. If if you're police, you have the debrief and all that sort of thing. But if you are at one of those things, it's probably a good idea to just sit there and just do something you enjoy, or whether it's going to the gym, like you said, we have a beer, we have a
yeah,
beer around mates. Go and have a coffee if you
yeah,
prefer, coffee. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is to sit down, especially with some of your mates, and talk through it, because I mean I've said it before, a problem shared is a problem halved. So it's
yeah,
and you get people who haven't been involved in the incident is give you a better perspective without emotion. So they look at it objectively a lot of the time. If somebody's not emotionally involved, I mean, I'm the perfect example. I'm the best at giving advice on relationships, but geez, I'll tell you what, I've done some shit things in my own relationship, and it's because
that's right.
because
Yeah,
emotions involved, and that I mean that goes back into domestics as well. That's why they're so hard to deal with, because of the emotion involved in it, and it clouds judgment.
yeah,
So yeah, it's one of those things, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to that, and the fact that they're really good at seeing, whether it's your girlfriend or a good mate or something like that, and you sit there and you see they're going through a terrible relationship, and you're going, why can't they see it?
yeah,
The fact is, you could be doing exactly the same thing, but you're blinded by the emotion. So
yeah.
it's
That's right.
it's just one of those things. And I think, and also, mate, another thing you mentioned there, which I thought was important, the fact police become very, I suppose, attuned to just bringing the level down, like settling things out and thinking of things objectively, because I think we do it on a day to day basis. And I've said it before, some people sit there and you go to a murder or, a serious car crash, and they look at the police and they go, there's no emotion on the police's face whatsoever. However, that I mean that cop does know emotion and it's seeing emotion, but we have to act, we have to do the job and make sure it gets done without emotion, because that's the only way you really get justice. So
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, like you've been saying, that the emotion clouds judgment. So, as police, you don't really get emotional. You just literally look at it like a problem that needs solving. So, any problem, and you could relate it to anything, anything that anyone does in life. A lot of the time, if there's no emotion involved, they just solve the problem. They go, all right, well, what's the most important? So, this is our number one priority. Let's fix that. To completely restore this, what we need to do is fix that. Then we need to fix this. Then we need to fix that. So, I think I could look at that point of view with a little bingle and just go, okay, so the biggest problem is traffic. Let's not get anyone else hit by a car. Next thing, we need to clear the road, so let's do that. First of all, we need to treat a patient, so let's get an ambulance there for the patient. And you sort of just work through it objectively, and then it might be that if someone is highly emotional, they might actually be escalating the problem. So it
yep,
might be that you need to de-escalate them, and it might even be, look, you need to go away. You're not helping this situation. And quite often, if you point something out really openly to somebody, they might start to see a bit of reason. It might be like, listen, you're yelling and screaming right now, but that's not fixing anything. Okay. Just you need to calm down. But quite often that won't work. If you still tell someone to calm down, the first reaction is, don't tell me to calm down.
yeah,
So it's you mightn't use those words, but it might be like, okay, so obviously you're a lot involved in this. What do we need to do next? Well, he needs to get arrested. Well, no. Okay, maybe, but that can happen later. There's no urgency in that. What's the most urgent thing right now? Oh, well, that person needs to go to hospital. You're right. I agree with you. So you know what? Let's get an ambulance here and let's get that person treated with first aid and let's get them out of here. There's no point yelling and screaming. It's not going to fix anything.
no,
It's
that's
not
right.
going to. It's not going to achieve anything. Um, and you sort of need to, in a roundabout way, get them to control their emotion and
Yep,
and just work it through. And I think what my brother was saying was the initial response was a bit like that. People were sort of a bit emotional and a bit irrational. But then as the incident went on, everyone sort of calmed down and they realised, we're okay here. This has occurred and that's it. We moved on. And he said that the police were fine. They turned up. They just went, okay, that's happened. No worries. Here's your infringement notice. He's right. You've got each other's details. Here's your report number. Next job. Away they go. So,
Yeah, mate. Just actually, I'll tell a story, and this will probably move on to onto something that we haven't mentioned yet. And so I remember good old Hurley. Shout out to Hurley. Him and I went to an incident down in Catherine where somebody got hit with a baseball bat. It was just down the main street. And anyway, we got down there. It was about must have been 11 o'clock at night, something like that. I can't really remember. But the people been drinking and all that sort of thing. And anyway, a few people come out of the nightclub or the pub just down the road, and one was actually a NARJA lawyer, and she was one of the witnesses, right? So I'm going, police rock up at a scene. You go, okay, who are the witnesses? And you're taking down details. You're getting their version of events. The problem is that I got her version of events. I got all her details and all that sort of thing, and then I moved on to the next witness. But she kept on coming and butting in when I'm talking to somebody else, and I said, look, you're going to have to go. I said, because one of the biggest things is you cannot. If you have somebody telling the story, it will put ideas in the other witness' head. And even though that witness might think that happened because they heard it from somebody else. So what you need to do is eliminate that. So, but she kept on anyway. I basically, turned around and said, no, I can't have you here. I said, I've got your details. If I need to contact you, I will. Anyway, then she came back again. And I said, look, if you continue to keep on harassing me, I said, I will actually lock you up for hinder police because you're hindering an investigation at this time and I need to make sure I get a thing. And anyway, she tried to butt in again, so I arrested her. I put her in the cage. And I said, well, if this is what I'm going to have to do to make sure that I can actually do this investigation impartially, then I will do that. And I'll let her sit there for 15 minutes while I spoke to all the other witnesses because then she couldn't interrupt me. And then I actually went and spoke to her and I said, now have you learnt your bloody lesson? I said, now I can actually formally charge you if you want, or if you're happy to go home, you go home. And she decided to go home. But you can probably touch on that. That is why you get witnesses separately and speak to them because they will hear what other witnesses say and it can form a belief in their mind that that's what really happened.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, the old witness accounts is an interesting thing. And absolutely you need to separate them out because even police incidents, someone might say, "Oh, did you see that fella came out around the corner with a?" Oh, this is just a theoretical incident.
Yeah.
It might be that the main incident has been witnessed by a person and they've given you an account, and then you speak to another person who's seen that but from a different angle or from a different distance, heard different things, but their attention might have been drawn to a different part of the actual incident. And if you go through and you speak to everyone, you're also extracting as much information as you can. So I will give an example where emotion gets involved and people feel that they need to assist the witness. And the biggest one here is children. If you've got a child witness, the worst thing you can do, or the worst thing for their account of what's occurred, is to have mum or dad sitting there and interjecting and going, no, tell me more. Or not tell. That's the problem. I might go, you need to say more about that, and putting the child under pressure. I'm trained in child forensic interviewing, and the big one there is, and I've said it before in other investigations, is the whole tell me, explain, describe, show me. So you use big words because, like I've said, there's no information that I can provide. All I can do is extract the information from the person. I wasn't there. I'm investigating what happened. I've got no input. But see, mum and dad weren't there either, but they're feeling emotion because their child is now providing information to a policeman, and that's fine. That's completely normal. But their emotion, and quite often their need to push their child to provide the best explanation or the best statement possible, actually really clouds the information coming from the child. I had an incident, and it turned out to be a false report by this young girl. She had some issues with mum and dad, and she'd made an allegation of an attempted sexual assault on her. And I started speaking to her, and her mother came over, and I just said, "Oh, look, I'm just going to speak to her by herself." And anyway, I'd ask a question, and then part of questioning and letting a witness produce information is the use of silence. So I would say, okay, so just tell me more about you. And I'd already had the free recall, but then I said, just tell me more about this. You said you were walking up this hill and that. Just explain that a bit more to me. And then there was about a 5 second break. And then mum's gone, well, come on, what happened? Come on, just tell the policeman what. I was like, mum, you need to go away. All right. If this takes 5 minutes, I don't care. I'm going to leave her in silence. You can't possibly provide me information. She's the one with the information. I need to speak to her without you speaking. And she was a little bit cranky, but she kept interjecting. And I mean, I didn't arrest her, but I basically said, I can't help you if you won't let me talk to your child.
Yeah.
Silence is part of that. You need to go away. So, and in the end, it turns out that I kept asking questions and kept going, okay, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Just explain that a bit more. And the trouble was, this young girl, for whatever reason, she had an idea in her head as what she was going to say. But when I was probing so deeply, she just couldn't come up with the lies quick enough. And I worked out pretty quickly that the information wasn't correct. And anyway, she came in the day later with mum and dad and said that, yeah, I made it up. I was having a fight with mum and I just wanted to get back at her and all this sort of thing. So, but that was just more to do with the extraction of the information. But it just shows how the emotion of a parent, when a child's involved, wanting to push that child to provide the information, completely clouds it. And that also clouds if you've overheard someone giving an account and you can't remember a part of theirs, you sort of think, oh, did I see that as well? And it might cloud your
Yeah.
version of events as well.
Yeah. I think,
Um,
yeah, one of the best ones, like they always say, the memory is like a freshly laid snow. And the more you actually put your footsteps through it or other people's footsteps through it, it becomes very muddled, and people
yeah,
will think they saw when they didn't. And I mean, that's probably one of I mean, we're pretty well trained. All police officers are, especially those that have gone through and done their, investigations level 1 and 2,
mm,
and also detectives, that you're trained on extracting the correct information,
yeah,
but just by little tricks of the trade, just to try and get them. And like you said, there's nothing we can provide. Our job
no,
is to sit there and basically get them in the right headspace so they can actually provide the best information for what occurred. So, um,
yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, I think I don't know, some general. I don't like giving advice because I don't feel like an expert in anything. But this sort of thing where a bit of advice if you're involved in a little bingle, and I think we've gone over it a few times now. But the first thing would be calm down, just calm, make yourself calm. If you need to take a few deep breaths, just try and control that emotional response that you're having. Just suck it back. Take a second, and then deal with the problem at hand. So it could be a dangerous crash where there's people still on the road and there's on a highway situation where vehicles are whipping past. That's quite dangerous. It could be a little bingle in the middle of a street where two cars have bumped into each other at a T intersection or something, and there's some damage to vehicles, but no one's hurt. There's still going to be an emotional response there because you've been involved in a crash. But it's just like, okay, let's break it down. What have we done? What have we done? We've had a crash. Is anybody hurt? No, no one's hurt. No one's hurt. Okay, no worries. Right, that's sorted. The cars are there, but we can't really do much about that. How are we going to fix this? Well, straight away, we need to go, okay, we need to exchange details. If there's any level of damage to the vehicles, we probably need to call the police. So let's do that. And then it's like work through it. If someone's highly emotional and if it's the other party, look after yourself, protect yourself first. So if the other people in the other vehicle or other people who you don't know involved are quite emotional, it might be that you just step back, remove yourself from the situation a little bit. If you ever feel in danger in a crash, get out of there and call 000 and tell them that I'm in danger. Or this person's reacting quite violently. But yeah, I think the biggest thing there is you just deal with the problem. It's just a problem that needs to be solved, and emotion's not going to solve it. So yeah, I think that's the takeaway from the whole thing.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean that's all. Yeah, it's all really good advice. It's important to sit back and actually look at things, from a fresh set of eyes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. I've just remembered, and I better mention it now because just as you were talking there, we did get another response as well. My mum's hairdresser. So
Oh,
mum, so yeah, we got the hairdresser listening, and big shout out to her. And she would like to hear more about bush policing. So we'll probably go a bit more involved in bush policing later on. We've already done a couple of episodes in relation to that, but we can probably go into a bit more intricate, especially I suppose my time out at Ramangini, I've touched on a few things there, but I'd more
Mm.
probably go into the lifestyle of
Yeah.
what sleeping is out there.
Yep.
Is probably a good point. But yeah, but thanks for the feedback on that, and we'll
Yeah.
definitely talk about that in another time.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah, share it around if you like what you're hearing. We like to grow, so yeah, share it around and show other people the podcast, and let us know what you think. If there's something you don't like, let us know. And another thing my brother pointed out, he said you can go into this. I don't know much about this stuff, but apparently you can go into your into the settings where you get your podcast, and you can hit auto download. Well, that way you've got it there. If if you're going on a long drive out in the bush and your mobile phone's a bit patchy, you've still got the podcast there. So yeah, we appreciate that, and we love the fact it's growing and that people like what we're saying. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
good. And if you don't like it, please tell us.
that's right. Yeah. Tell it. Yeah, tell us if you think we're shit and need to get off the air. Then let us know.
Yeah,
We'll
we won't
no.
listen, but tell us.
But yeah, and look, keep the feedback coming. You can get in contact. Most people actually message us through our Facebook.
Yeah,
To Ordinary Cops. So if you go on to Facebook, or you can email us. Actually, I haven't checked the emails again. I'm bloody terrible. That Yeah, mate. I've never been much of a social media sort of person, and I'll tell you what, there's so many different ways you can get in contact with somebody when you're doing this sort of stuff, and it sometimes you get a bit busy to keep on
yeah,
checking them all. So if somebody has sent an email, I do apologise, but I will check on that later on today. But yeah, probably one of the best is definitely through the Facebook. It's Messenger; it comes up straight away, and I get to see it, or even YouTube. A lot of people comment on YouTube as well. So.
yeah.
But yeah, a big shout out to everybody that gives feedback as well, because yeah, they like what they hear. So so if you do tell us you don't like us, well, don't listen to us. I
Yeah,
think it's probably the easiest
exactly.
way to say
Yeah.
it.
No, very good. Well, that's another one wrapped up. So it's the Ordinary Cops, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, well do. See you later.